Hey guys, I'm Matt Wood. I'm one of the sales guys here at Digistore, and first up in this section I'm going to be covering off acquisition, editing and cloud-based collaborative workflows. So let's kick off talking about acquisition. And first up, CineDeck. So their motto is your workflow, your way. And what that means is the ability to take multiple streams, ingest those, creating multiple formats of your choice. So you have all the traditional editorial formats like ProRes, DNxHD, and those can be recorded out to separate locations. So it makes it very flexible as far as what you're ingesting, how quickly you're getting it in, and what you're creating and where it's going to. So CineDeck have a couple of different products. There is the CineDeck RX, which allows simultaneous 2 inputs, and there is the MX model, which is a 4-input system. So with the MX, for instance, you can have up to 8 encodes simultaneously in real time. And CineDeck are bringing out the EX model, which is a camera-mounted solution in time for IBC. So you can be recording to fixed or internal media. Inside there is SSDs, so you can have up to 8 terabyte internal, and you can also hook up through 10 gig E, fiber, gig E, any kind of removable storage, and there is USB 3 and eSATA available as well. New for the show is support for RE RAW. So it can record RE RAW with a proxy file, and that proxy file can actually have a LUT burned into it. So your proxies can go on your Avid ISIS or SAN ready for editorial with your color grade already applied to it. There is also enhanced deck control, so the CineDeck can be used as a master or a slave device. So it can trigger decks to record or be triggered by decks to record. LUT support is another big feature. They also introduced segment recording or chunking, some people know it as. So if you're recording, you can wrap the files in any user-defined time. So if you want editorial running 10 minutes or half an hour behind camera shooting, it can generate files that are loaded into an ISIS or any kind of SAN that editorial can pick and start using. It also has many other functions. It can be a monitor, a record deck, a playback for dailies, camera assist. It packs a lot of power. So I really love this slide. It might be a little bit hard to read, but I'll step you through it. It basically illustrates all the codecs it can handle. I love taking this out when doing sales calls. So just to recap, it can encode to multiple formats simultaneously. So you can do a ProRes and DNxHD, which can be a tremendous time saver because you're not having to transcode. A lot of people will record straight onto an ISIS, and what is really awesome is CineDeck is working on a plugin to automatically check files in through Interplay, which I'll touch on later, to further reduce the errors that are associated with human operation. The fact that you can just hook it up to an ISIS and pump footage on there, that your Avid editorial, your finishing symphony guys have immediate access to those files when they are shooting them. It's brilliant. There's no faster way to work. So think about a show who would traditionally would use an on-set DIT. There is the process of taking cards and processing those. You're always 4 to 5 hours behind camera, which is an issue when everyone wants to just shut down, go home and have dinner. This really alleviates a lot of that pressure. I could see some of the smaller RX units being on a cart side by side with the digital dailies process and guaranteeing editorial that yes, you can have your files as soon as the camera shuts off. Now, what about 4K? This was the buzzword at NAB. We couldn't escape it. Last time it was stereoscopic, but CineDeck has announced it will be supporting the Canon C500 for IBC timeframe and also the Sony f55. Next up, the KiPro Quad is a 4K 444 capable recorder. It's got 4 3G SDI inputs and it records to 1.8-inch SSDs. There's 2 drive slots in there, only records to one of them at a time. What it will do, it will take in 4K video If it's baseband video from 4 3G SDI outputs, like in the Sony f55 camera, it will just take that straight in and encode it to ProRes and save it onto the SSDs. Now, the cool thing about that is you're not messing around with huge data rates, massive files. You just have the 4K ProRes MOVs sitting on an SSD. You eject the drives and pop them into a dock, drag and drop them onto the desktop and start editing. So we're pretty stoked about it, and there's a lot of other things this box can do. I mean, you don't need to be recording 4K with it. For instance, if you had a Sony f3 camera, a 444 camera, beautiful dual-link HD SDI output, but it's a 1080 raster, it will record it as ProRes 4444, which is just about as beautiful as you can get on a compressed codec. And it's all iframe stuff, so it's really, really easy to edit. You don't have to worry about rendering every time you make a tiny little move on your editor or anything like that. Now, to mix things up a bit, we see more and more the need to bring in computer signals into the video world. So the explosion of YouTube and all these other interfaces that we want to see in our videos, but there's never been an easy way, an affordable way to get those in and preserve the quality. So what the folks at AJA have done is come up with the ROI, R-O-I. It's a DVI to SDI converter, but it's not just any old converter. The seriously cool thing is it's able to take the DVI signal and you can select any portion of the screen and scale it up to a full SD or HD signal and have a really high quality image. So it does a high quality scaling of DVI to SDI, and it's $1,000. And it also embeds audio too. Now, you can't talk about AJA without mentioning Blackmagic. There's a couple of things they wanted to do this year. They really wanted to take a look at Ultra HD. They launched several 4K products in the past and have new 6 gig SDI technology, which will allow for a lot more production capabilities for Ultra HD and 4K. So even before we get to the cameras, let's talk about the new ATEM Production Studio, which is a 4K live production switcher. So it's got 4 HDMIs as well as 4 of these new 6 gig SDIs, and that is what is driving a lot of the core of the Ultra HD. So it's basically supporting the workflow for the new cameras. And that leads us to the new 4K production camera, which is what everyone's excited about. It's a 4K production camera for under $4,000, which is pretty amazing and blows most people away. It's a super 35mm base sensor, and it uses EF because it doesn't really have that big crop factor. So it's got the great big sensor, but everything else about it is a lot like the current 2.5K cinema camera. They use the same body, same SSDs. The only real difference is because it's 4K only, it does the ProRes compression or a lightly compressed raw cinema DMG file. So that's a small bit of a change there. It does mean the 2.5K EF cameras still have a lot of great value out there, but of course a lot of people are looking to do that big 4K shot. They have this great camera available. So there's the 4K camera, the 2.5K camera with a lot of great functionality, but how does the average person get all those great features in your pocket? So that's where we now have the Pocket Cinema camera, which is amazing because for $1,000, we've got this little handheld device, which is basically a 1080 based version, but still 13 stop of dynamic range. It still records directly in ProRes, as well as the Cinema DMG RAW, lightly compressed. And it's interchangeable. It's an interchangeable lens. So it's using an active micro 4/3 lens. So imagine being on the road, or be it with your friends or family, or going out and doing news gathering, and just pull out this camera. That gives you all the great cinema quality of the other cameras right in your pocket. And there's a pretty cool story as to how Grant Petty of Blackmagic came up with the idea, and in fact it was his wife's idea. He was carrying around the 2.5K cinema camera to all the trade shows and going on holidays, and he was popping it in his wife's bag. In the end, his wife got sick of it and said, "Can't you make a smaller one of these?" So hence the Pocket Cinema camera. So that form camera is just amazing because it's 1080, That means you can work directly within Resolve or the light free version. Blackmagic has also done a lot of upgrades to the full Resolve version. I say upgrades, they've announced a lot of upgrades which are coming. They've added online editing, OpenFX plugins, being able to deliver to DCP. So you can see Blackmagic has really concentrated on delivering a good open workflow. So between the Ultra HD, the new cameras and Resolve, there are a lot of great things happening at the Blackmagic booth. So next we're going to talk about editing and cloud-based collaborative workflows. So at NAB, Avid announced Media Composer 7. Now it's not shipping yet, it's coming, probably in July. And that's really targeted at two very specific things. That is helping people with the file-based workflow revolution, including high-res as well as distributed editing. We're seeing a lot more production going outside the facility, people needing to edit in the field in real time and collaborating in sync with the facility just to make the project much more efficient. So for the file-based end, a while back Avid did something called AMA, which most of you will be familiar with, Avid Media Access, which allows you to link directly to file-based media and work with it inside Media Composer. People really liked that, but missed the traditional media management tools. So now in Media Composer 7, AMA Media is treated just like native Avid Media. So the full complement of media management tools is available, whether you capture from tape or import, or you link directly to file-based sources such as Red and ARRI and Canon Media. Specifically for high-res, we're seeing more and more people ask for support for 2K and 4K workflows, but they're all saying they need to deliver in HD masters. They just want to future-proof their content, so they're not looking to up-res later on when people are asking for it and are actually viewing 4K at home. So for that, Avid is releasing two new features. The first called Frame Flex, which is basically a high-res HD pan and scan tool to allow the editor to have full creative control over how the image is reframed from high-res to HD. In association with that is new support for 1D and 3D LUTs, as well as color decision lists. So let's say I'm working with ARRI Media. It's shot as log C. I want to be able to apply the ARRI LUT inside my editor so it looks proper in the Rec 7i color space. Of course, it's not baked into the file. It's a metadata file, so we can add or remove it as need be. So for just basic editorial, you want to have this Rec 709 LUT on there for viewing, you can do that. Then when it's time for color correction, you can remove the LUT and begin doing color correction. So more on the media management front is a new feature called Dynamic Media Folders. These are user customizable folders that you can set up outside of Media Composer to do media management operation for you. So for example, I could set up profiles that say when I get media in from the field, when it mounts on my desktop, I want you to make a local copy for me. I want you to transcode that into an editing-friendly DNX HD codec, and I want you to automatically link that to my project. So 3 steps right there that used to tie up the editor from doing creative storytelling are now all done in the background and automated. There is a lot of great things with audio. For those audiophiles out there, you now have a master audio fader in Media Composer. So now we have a single bus that you can use to level your entire audio mix, to add RTAS plugins to it, to do total adjustments to compression and things like that, which we know is becoming more and more important with the regulations happening around loudness levels inside your programming. Things like audio waveforms, which editors used to turn on and go, I have to wait for that now, has now been borrowed from Pro Tools and it's cached. So they draw much faster, they stay on the screen as you resize and shuttle and stay with the project. So once they are done, you go over to the project again and they're waiting for you. So it's not something you have to do over and over again. And of course, you wrap all that up into one of the biggest announcements about Media Composer is that it's available for just $1,000. It was pushing the $3,000 mark before. It's an incredible price and an incredible package of new features that were shown on the NAB booth. For the distributing editing I touched on earlier, Interplay Sphere, both Mac and Windows based, for both Mac and Windows based users, allows me to use my Media Composer to connect to any Interplay facility in the world in real time and collaborate and share media, share assets, even doing editing via a web browser through the Interplay Central client. Now, what is really cool about it is it's a real shipping hardware and software solution. So at the heart of the system is ISIS. Now, I've sold a bunch of these and only just learned that ISIS stands for Infinitely Scalable Intelligent Storage. The idea is that it's an Ethernet attached system optimized for workflows, saving you time and money depending on the size of your facility that you plan on using with the shared storage network. Video and audio editors can share the same media at the same time, which is fantastic. If you haven't seen this before, let us know if you haven't, and we'll show you. You have your media on a virtual workspace and everybody is sharing that same media. It's just the pointers that are used to cut the sequence together so you don't need to duplicate media over and over again. You can get multiple streams, so you have multiple editors using the same media throughout the process. There's also dynamic resizing of workspaces, literally while you're working without having to shut down your entire facility. It has great performance and it's a really proven system with ISIS 5000. On top of the ISIS system, we have Interplay Production. This is your asset management system. It's the brains to your entire facility and all your media. It allows for a bunch of different workflows depending on what your roles are in the facility. For example, a logger, a producer, an editor. So you have Interplay Central, which is a web-based browsing system for all your media. Local or remote, you want to be working down at Bondi Beach, you have all your media back at the facility, but you can be literally looking at the same media on your shared storage while working remotely. Interplay Sphere is within the editor. If you're at home or at the pub, you can literally log into the ISIS system at the facility and play media, make any changes, and open up that sequence back at the facility and link to the high-res media, which is on your ISIS. It enables two-way working, so you can actually upload from your local system to your ISIS at your facility or download off the ISIS onto the system you're working on. So you can do all this over standard Wi-Fi or a 4G connection. And I know it works because I've seen Evan Boyd over at Avid. He boasts about being across the road from Avid headquarters at the Greenwood pub doing his demos. So just a short list of benefits before we move on to Adobe Anywhere. Background transcoding, something people have been asking for a long time. So while you're editing, you can actually send media in the background to transcode back at the facility. You're not stopping the editing process. You're just saying upload this media, it does it in the background, and you keep it working. Also background uploading, same thing. Automatic check-in for media. Interplay is kind of like a library. You have to check things in before you can see it. If I'm working with 500 different sequences because I'm a digital hoarder and I have these different changes, I only want to check in the one I want everyone to see. So you can automatically check your media from the field if you like, or choose it on a per asset basis. Proxy first, full resolution workflows. Depending on how you want to upload or send your media, you can literally click on the media on your laptop and I say I want to send a proxy and a high-res transcode of that, and it will just queue up and do all that in the background. Distributed editing, so you can actually edit between editors in different locations. So just like on a shared storage network at your facility, you can literally get on your laptop, have someone across the other side of Sydney on a laptop, and as soon as that media is checked in and out, any notes, any shot lists, any sequences can be seen on both systems. So Interplay Sphere, creating a digital outpost anywhere with a digital internet connection. Again, wireless. Think of Evan across the road at the pub. or wired. It's secure, so you are working on the private cloud, that is Interplay, using the shared storage network. So you have logins that are required for your credentials. Full workflow with Media Composer, again with Sphere, inside your editor. Being able to play and work with the ballistics are amazing. You wouldn't even know because it's actually downloading a low-res version of the media to your local storage, and edit your Interplay assets remotely and intelligently upload your media. Interplay, depending on how you plan on working with it in the field, again, being able to search for any of your assets, Avid or non-Avid, getting it into your facility in a timely manner. How do you want to access your material from your facility? Do you want to work remotely? A lot of people want to do that now. They don't want to be in the facility, or they want to make changes as they are working. Interplay Sphere, being able to access content from anywhere, search, browse, and edit, and Sphere will give you that familiar Media Composer toolset. So with all that being said, if you would like to see Interplay Sphere in action, give us a call. We'll be doing some demos on Wednesday the 29th of May, which is in 2 weeks, at Avid headquarters, so you can see Evan in action. Moving on to Adobe Anywhere. Here is another product introduced, but it's not yet shipping. It's a video editing collaboration platform that allows teams that are using Premiere Pro, Prelude, and After Effects to work together over local and wide area networks. The Anywhere platform contains two types of components: the Anywhere Collaboration Hub and the Mercury Streaming Engine. By adding more Mercury streaming engines to the system, it can scale to support bigger work groups. It's designed to be located in your data center along your existing storage and asset management system. That's an important thing, your existing storage. So let's talk about it a little bit further about the Collaboration Hub. Most video workflows involve working with project files. The project files are usually specific to a single application and can only be used by a single user at a time. So Anywhere removes those boundaries between project files and allows multiple people to use different applications to work on the same production all at the same time. So all of your projects assets such as folders, compositions, sequences, and metadata are stored in a flexible database that everyone can access. Anywhere automatically handles the hard parts of collaboration, like providing simultaneous access, avoiding conflicts, and saving historical versions. Now let's talk about the Mercury streaming engine. Even though network bandwidth is constantly improving, it can still be a major constraint on your workflow when you're dealing with massive video files. So the streaming engine lets you use full resolution video files from across the network. It feels like the media is right there on your computer. No drop frames, no proxies. Every pixel is right there on your screen. So is this the next big thing? Will you be able to edit 4K over Wi-Fi? Will it create super post-production houses in the cloud? And will they charge a monthly subscription for it? They're all great questions. It's a really, really great concept. And if they can pull things this off, it's going to change the game big time. However, this isn't an integrated, supported hardware and software solution like Avid, so you do need to purchase your hardware from your reseller. All right, so that's the end of this section. Mark, if there are some questions, did you want to read them out, and we'll see if we can get those answered?
Sure, thanks, Matt. We do have one question here. It says, is the upgrade price going to drop when 7 comes out?
So yes, so as previously mentioned, Media Composer was pushing $3,000 before. It's now just under $1,000, and yes, they have reduced the upgrade pricing. If you purchase Media Composer 6.5 now, you do get a complimentary upgrade to version 7. So if you got any questions around pricing, I'm not sure if the upgrade to version 7 pricing has been released, but you can expect it to be cheaper than historically speaking.
Okay, we've got one more question, which is, could there be a cross-RAID offer from Final Cut from FCS3 to Avid Media Composer?
Yep, that's a good question. So back when Media Composer was pushing $3,000, they had a cross-grade special from Final Cut Studio. It was around about $1,600 odd dollars. Given Avid has dropped the price to $1,000, now I would be doubtful in thinking that they would further drop that if as a cross-grade special, but you never know.
The next section, we're going to introduce Sean Curran, who's our National Sales Manager, who's going to talk to you about post-production, animation, and VFX releases from the NAB shows.